If you are listening to this right now, I want you to slow down for just a moment and take one gentle breath with me, not a forced breath, not a deep breath that makes your chest tighten, just a natural one, the kind you take without thinking, because this moment is not about effort, it is not about becoming better, it is simply about being here. And today we are spending this quiet space together with the calm presence of Kanan Amamiya, a presence that does not rush into your life loudly, does not demand your attention, does not try to prove anything, but still somehow makes you feel seen. And I want to ask you something softly. How heavy does your heart feel right now? Not how heavy it looks on the outside, but how heavy it feels when you are alone with yourself at night, when there is no one watching, when there is no one to impress, just you and your thoughts, because many people carry a weight that no one ever notices. They smile in public, they function at work, they reply to messages, they laugh when needed, but inside they are tired in a way that sleep cannot fix. And if that sounds like you even a little bit, you don't have to explain it, you don't have to justify it, just knowing that you are not alone in that feeling is already enough for now. And Kanan's gentle energy feels like someone who would sit quietly beside you in that tiredness, not trying to fix it, not trying to rush it away, just allowing it to exist without judgment. And that alone is something many hearts have been needing for a very long time. In this world, everything moves fast, people rush to succeed, rush to prove, rush to compare, rush to show how strong they are. And in the middle of all that noise, we often forget how to simply rest without guilt, we forget how to exist without constantly measuring our worth. And Kanan feels like a soft reminder that you are allowed to stop running for a moment, you are allowed to sit down inside your own life without feeling like you are failing. And maybe no one ever said this to you directly, but I will say it now slowly so your heart can hear it clearly. Your value does not decrease just because you are tired. Your worth does not shrink just because today feels heavier than yesterday. And your existence does not need to be justified by productivity. There are people who wake up every morning already exhausted, not because they did not sleep, but because they have been carrying unresolved worries, silent fears, unspoken sadness, and invisible pressure for a long time. And when they look in the mirror, they don't see someone broken, they see someone who has been surviving quietly, and survival is not loud. It does not look like victory from the outside. It looks like showing up again even when you don't feel ready. It looks like answering one more message even when your heart feels empty. It looks like getting out of bed even when staying under the blanket feels safer than facing the world. And if that is you, you are stronger than you realize, even if you don't feel strong at all. Kanan's calm presence does not make you feel like you must be brave, it makes you feel like it is okay not to be brave today. And that is something many people secretly need to hear, because the pressure to always be strong becomes a burden after a while, and the strongest people are often the ones who never feel allowed to rest. They feel responsible for everyone else's emotions, everyone else's stability, everyone else's expectations, and slowly they forget how to listen to their own needs. And their own heart becomes a voice they keep postponing. But your heart does not stop speaking just because you ignore it, it becomes quieter, heavier, more tired, waiting for the moment you finally turn back and listen. Kanan feels like that quiet space where your heart can finally speak without being interrupted by noise. And if your heart could talk freely right now without being judged, it might say, I am tired of pretending, I am tired of being okay, I am tired of explaining myself, I am tired of comparing my life to others, I am tired of feeling like I am behind. And if those thoughts feel familiar, you don't need to fight them tonight. You don't need to correct them, you don't need to replace them with positive affirmations immediately. Sometimes the most healing thing is simply allowing them to exist for a moment without shame. People often think that healing means becoming happy all the time, but real healing is learning how to sit with your sadness without feeling like you are broken for having it. And Kanan's quiet gentleness feels like permission to be human in all of your softness, in all of your confusion, in all of your unfinished parts. There are days when you feel proud of yourself and days when you feel like you are falling behind everyone else, days when you feel hopeful and days when you feel numb, days when you feel strong and days when simply getting through the day feels like a victory. And all of those days are valid parts of being alive, even the ones you wish you could erase, even the ones that feel unproductive, even the ones that feel lonely, they are still part of your story, and your story does not lose value just because some chapters are quiet and heavy. Kanan's presence does not rush you toward a destination, it stays with you in the middle of your uncertainty. And that is important because not all journeys are meant to be fast. Some are meant to be slow because your soul is still catching up with what your life has already been through. Many people carry old wounds they never talk about, old disappointments, old betrayals, old failures they still replay in their minds at night. And they wonder why they feel heavy even when nothing is technically wrong anymore. But emotional weight does not disappear just because time passes. It fades when it is acknowledged, when it is understood, when it is held gently instead of being pushed away. And Kanan feels like the kind of presence that would treat your past pain with softness instead of judgment. There are moments when you feel lonely not because you are alone, but because no one around you truly sees how you feel inside. And that kind of loneliness is one of the heaviest feelings a heart can carry, because it makes you feel invisible even in a crowd, and Kanan's quiet energy feels like someone finally sitting close enough to notice your silence, not trying to fill it with noise but respecting it. Silence is something many people fear because in silence the thoughts get louder, regrets become clearer, worries feel closer. But not all silence is dangerous. Some silence is peaceful. Some silence is where healing starts. Some silence is where your real emotions finally have space to breathe. And Kanan's silence is that kind of safe silence, the kind that does not attack you, the kind that holds you instead of overwhelming you. There are dreams you once had that now feel far away, dreams you slowly buried under responsibility, survival, fear, and practicality. And sometimes you wonder if you gave up too early, if you changed too much, if you lost a part of yourself somewhere along the way. And those thoughts can feel heavy, but your dreams do not disappear just because you stop looking at them. They rest quietly inside you, waiting for a safe moment to be remembered again. And Kanan feels like someone who would sit beside that forgotten dream and say it is not too late to care again. Not in a loud motivational way, but in a quiet, patient way that does not pressure you. Life rarely breaks people in one dramatic moment. It breaks them slowly through small disappointments, unmet expectations, quiet goodbyes, unreturned feelings, repeated effort without recognition. And over time those small cuts can make the heart feel tired without remembering exactly when it all started. And when people feel tired for no clear reason, they often judge themselves harshly for it. They think they should be grateful, they think they should be stronger, they think others have it worse. But pain does not become invalid just because it is quiet. And Kanan's calm presence treats even small pain as something that still deserves kindness. There is a special kind of exhaustion that comes from trying to be everything for everyone, trying to meet every expectation, trying not to disappoint, trying not to be a burden, trying not to show weakness. And that kind of exhaustion is deep because it comes from denying your own limits for too long. And near Kanan, you do not have to pretend that you are limitless. You are allowed to be finite, you are allowed to be tired, you are allowed to need rest without apologizing for it. Some nights you may lie awake not because your body cannot sleep, but because your mind refuses to be quiet, replaying conversations, worrying about tomorrow, questioning past decisions, carrying guilt, carrying fear, carrying uncertainty. And when the world is asleep, your thoughts become low. And those are often the moments when loneliness feels strongest, and Kanan's gentle presence feels like someone quietly reminding you that even in those sleepless nights you are not as alone as you think. There are people who feel behind in life, behind in career, behind in love, behind in money, behind in confidence, behind in happiness, and that feeling of being behind can slowly erode your self-worth if you let it. But the truth is that everyone is running a different race on a different path with different starting lines and different obstacles, and timing shaped by survival will never look the same as timing shaped by comfort. And Kanan never makes you feel like your pace is wrong. She respects the fact that your journey has its own rhythm. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is not to keep pushing forward relentlessly. Sometimes the bravest thing is to stop, to breathe, to admit that you are tired, to choose gentleness over self-punishment. And that kind of bravery is quiet. It does not impress the world, but it saves the heart, and Kanan's energy honors that kind of courage. There are moments when you question your own worth, not because anyone said something directly, but because life slowly taught you to doubt yourself through repeated struggles. And over time you may start to believe that you are only valuable when you succeed, only lovable when you are useful, only worthy when you are strong. But that belief is one of the loneliest lies a heart can carry, and Kanan's quiet presence feels like a gentle contradiction to that lie, reminding you without words that you deserve softness even when you have nothing to offer the world. People often talk about self-love like it is something you can switch on instantly, but real self-love often begins with simply not hating yourself for being tired, not shaming yourself for being slow, not abandoning yourself when you feel weak. And that is a long, gentle process rather than a loud transformation, and Kanan's energy feels in harmony with that slow kind of healing. There are relationships that left marks on you, people who changed you, people you lost, people who disappointed you, people you still miss even if you know it is better that they are gone. And those emotional scars do not always fade cleanly. Sometimes they remain as quiet aches that resurface in unexpected moments, and Kanan's calming presence does not force you to forget those memories. It allows you to hold them without letting them define your entire future. There are days when you feel disconnected from yourself, when your routine continues but your emotions feel distant, when you go through the motions without feeling truly present, and that numbness can be frightening because it makes you wonder what happened to the version of you who used to feel more alive. And Kanan feels like someone gently turning the lights back on inside your awareness, not blinding you, not overwhelming you, just reminding you that you are still here, still breathing, still capable of feeling again in your own time. Sometimes you may feel guilty for resting, guilty for slowing down, guilty for choosing yourself over expectations, but guilt is not always a sign that you did something wrong. Sometimes it is simply the echo of old conditioning that taught you to prioritize everything over your own well-being. And Kanan's softness feels like permission to slowly unlearn that habit without forcing yourself to change overnight. There is a quiet strength in choosing kindness toward yourself in a world that constantly demands more output, more speed, more endurance, more comparison, and choosing kindness is not weakness, it is resistance against a culture that forgets how to breathe, and Kanan feels like an embodiment of that quiet resistance, a reminder that not everything meaningful has to be loud. As this moment continues, you do not need to suddenly feel better, you do not need to have any big emotional breakthrough, you do not need to promise yourself that tomorrow everything will change. Healing does not make demands like that. Healing simply offers you the chance to stay instead of run, to breathe instead of collapse, to listen instead of numb, and that is enough for tonight. If your heart still feels heavy, that is okay. Heaviness does not mean you failed to heal, it means you carried many things and you are still carrying them, and that deserves respect, not criticism. If your heart feels a little lighter, even just by one small degree, that is also enough. Healing often happens in quiet increments that are easy to overlook but powerful over time. Kanan Amamiya is not here to rush you toward some perfect version of yourself. She is here to remind you that your current version is already worthy of gentleness, already deserving of rest, already enough to sit in this quiet moment without proving anything to anyone. And before this moment ends, I want to say this directly to you with no filters and no conditions. You do not need to be stronger than you are tonight. You do not need to hide your tiredness. You do not need to earn your right to rest. You are allowed to be unfinished. You are allowed to be slow. You are allowed to be soft, and your heart, exactly as it is right now, still matters.